All right, continuation of cardiovascular pathology. The next topic for discussion is ischemic heart disease. Ischemic heart disease by itself is not one particular entity. It is actually considered as a group of pathophysiologically related syndromes having a similar basis. So that is myocardial ischemia. So whenever there is an imbalance between myocardial supply and cardiac demand for oxygenated blood, it results in myocardial ischemia. That forms the common basis for all those entities which are included under this group known as ischemic heart disease. And coronary artery disease is seen in more than 90% of the cases because of an obstructive atherosclerotic lesion within the epicardial coronary arteries. So because of these obstructive atherosclerotic lesions, so it usually results in myocardial ischemia. So these are the various clinical syndromes which are included under ischemic heart disease: angina pectoris, myocardial infarction, chronic ischemic heart disease with heart failure, and sudden cardiac death. And coming to angina pectoris, it is considered as transient myocardial ischemia, which is associated with substernal or precordial chest discomfort. And this kind of chest discomfort, it comes usually in paroxysmal episodes, which are recurrent in nature. So, a transient myocardial ischemia, which may last from 15 seconds to 15 minutes, and it is experienced by the patient as substernal or precordial chest discomfort, and it is usually paroxysmal and recurrent in nature. So this kind of chest discomfort is felt by the patient because of release of some factors such as adenosine and bradykinin, and they cause stimulation of the sympathetic and vagal afferent nerves. And you should remember that the myocardial ischemia, which is associated with angina pectoris, it doesn't cause infarction. So it is not so severe enough to cause infarction of the myocardium. And these are the different types of angina pectoris we have. So the first one, the most common one, is stable or typical angina. So it is seen in association with physical activity, emotional excitement, or psychological stress, and it is usually felt by the patient as deep, poorly localized pressure, squeezing or burning sensation, and it can be relieved by rest or administering some vasodilators. And the second type is pins-metal variant angina, which comes in episodes and uncommon in nature. And it is usually seen because of coronary artery spasm, and this also responds to the intake of vasodilators. And the third one is unstable or crescendo angina. So here patient suffers from increasingly frequent, prolonged, which is more than for 20 minutes, or severe angina or chest discomfort, which may be felt by the patient as frank pain. And this is because of disruption of an atherosclerotic plaque with superimposed partial thrombosis. And this kind of angina is the one which may lead to myocardial necrosis or imminent acute myocardial infarction. And you should remember that those individuals who are elderly and also those who suffer from diabetes mellitus, so geriatric population and those with diabetic neuropathy, they suffer from angina pectoris having no complaints, so which is considered as silent ischemia. And then myocardial infarction, so which is usually known as heart attack. So myocardial infarction, unlike angina pectoris, is seen in association with prolonged severe ischemia, and this can cause death of the myocardium. So here the ischemia which is associated can lead to necrosis of the myocardium, but in case of angina pectoris there is only ischemia which doesn't lead to the necrosis of the cardiac muscle. And here we have various risk factors. So, advancing age, atherosclerosis, and male sex, especially middle aged male, and postmenopausal women. So, before menopause, women were thought to be protective because of estrogen hormone. And coming to the pathogenesis, coronary arterial occlusion is seen in association with atherosclerosis, and there are various steps followed. And initially, there will be an acute change in coronary artery atheromatous plaque. So, this could be seen in the form of intraplaque hemorrhage, ulceration, or rupture. And whenever there is damage to the endothelium, so there will be exposure of the subendothelial collagen, and also platelets will get exposed to the necrotic plaque contents. All this results in platelet clumps, finally leading to thrombi formation. And those mediators which are released from platelets, they cause constriction of the blood vessel, so further aggravating the occlusion of the blood vessel by causing vasospasm. And then the released tissue factor following damage to the endothelium, it causes activation of the coagulation pathway, so mediating the further formation of the thrombus. So finally, the thrombus which is formed continuously growing in nature, causing complete occlusion of the blood vessel and then completely blocking the blood supply. And there are various other causes besides atherosclerosis, such as vasospasm, emboli, or vasculitis. And there are three different patterns of infarction whenever there will be death of the myocardium. So the first one is transmural infarction. So transmural means the myocardium along with pericardium and endocardium, so the whole thickness of the heart wall will be seen affected here. So in case of transmural infarction, there will be occlusion of an epicardial vessel, and that leads to involvement of a portion of the left ventricle through and through. And then the second type is subendocardial or non-transmural infarction, and this can be seen in association with global hypotension, and where there will be involvement of only inner one third of the ventricular wall. So unlike in transmural, so here there is involvement of only inner one third of the ventricular wall. And the third one is multifocal microinfarction, where smaller intramural vessels are being affected. So they could be affected because of microembolization, vasculitis, or vascular spasm. And this photograph shows the presence of different types of infarcts. So the first one shows transmural type of infarcts, where a portion of the entire thickness of the left ventricular wall is being affected. And on the other side, you have non-transmural infarcts and multifocal microinfarcts. So in non-transmural infarcts, there is involvement of only inner one third of the ventricular wall. And in case of multifocal microinfarctions, so there are multiple areas of infarctions are seen which are minute in nature. And coming to the morphology, so the three main arterial trunks which may get affected with atherosclerosis leading to complete blockage of vascular supply are: the first one is left anterior descending coronary artery, which is most commonly been affected in 40% to 50% of the cases, and then right coronary artery in 30% to 40% of the cases, and then left circumflex coronary artery in 15% to 20% of the cases. And then initially there will be reversible injury, and that is followed by irreversible injury. So during reversible injury, usually there are no manifestations which can be appreciated, and during reversible injury there are changes which start to begin after 4 hours. So within 4 hours there are no changes, but changes they start begin within 4 to 12 hours. So within 12 to 24 hours, if you observe the heart on gross, there will be dark mottling at the area of the infarct. And on microscopy, you can come across coagulation necrosis. And within 1 to 3 days on gross, you can see mottling with yellow tan infarct center. And on microscopy, there will be acute inflammation, so with the recruitment of neutrophils. and within 3 to 7 days there will be hyperemic border developing around the area of the infarct, and on microscopy there will be recruitment of chronic inflammatory cells such as macrophages, and within 10 to 14 days on gross there will be depressed borders of the infarct area, and on microscopy you will see the deposited granulation tissue as part of the reparative mechanism, and within 2 to 8 weeks there will be a scar being formed on gross, and on microscope you will see the scar is composed of the deposited collagen, and it usually takes more than 2 months for the complete healing of the damage. So the first picture shows the area of the infarct with the arrow mark, so which appears yellow tan colored. And in the second picture, the arrow mark shows the completely healed infarct areas, so they appear gray white because of the fibrosis. So the microscopy shows there will be coagulation necrosis involving the cardiac muscle in the upper left side, and on the right upper side there will be presence of more number of neutrophils as part of the acute inflammation, and below left side you can see there will be deposition of the collagen beginning here, so in the form of bluish color, and right lower side you can see greater amount of collagen being deposited which appears bluish upon staining with special stains. So finally it leads to development of scar. And coming to the clinical picture of a patient who suffers from myocardial infarction or heart attack is, so definitely there will be chest pain which usually lasts for more than 30 minutes, and patient can be experiencing it as either crushing or squeezing type, and the other associated manifestations such as rapid weak pulse, diaphoresis, that is extreme sweating, and there may be nausea and vomiting or shortness of breath, that is dyspnea. And as I said before, just like in case of angina pectoris, those who suffer from diabetic neuropathy, they can have all the manifestations, but they can't complain of anything. So that means they experience asymptomatic attacks. Then coming to the laboratory investigations, so we collect the blood samples to look for cardiac specific troponins, so which are cardiac specific troponin T and I and CKMB. So these are the cardiac related proteins which are released into the circulation whenever there is death of the myocardium. So once there is death of the myocardium, so these contents of the myocardium will get released into the circulation, and which can be detected during particular time period. So the time for elevation of CKMB, cardiac troponin T and cardiac troponin I is 3 to 12 hours. CKMB and cardiac troponin I, they peak at 24 hours. CKMB returns to normal within 48 to 72 hours. Cardiac troponin I returns to normal within 5 to 10 days, and cardiac troponin T returns to normal within 5 to 14 days. So you have to plan according to that so that we can detect myocardial infarction. So ECG shows different findings depending upon the type of the infarct. So if it is a transmural infarct, so there will be ST segment elevation, so which is known as ST elevation myocardial infarction, so STEMI you call it. And if it is subendocardial infarct, there will be no ST segment elevation, so that's why we call it as non-STEMI. And if it is a case of microinfarctions, there are non-specific findings or there may be no findings at all on the ECG. And diagnosis will be usually based upon considering all these three different parameters like clinical picture, laboratory investigations along with ECG findings. And these are the various complications which can be seen followed by heart attack. So there may be contractile dysfunction leading to cardiogenic shock. There may be development of arrhythmias. There may be myocardial rupture, so that is followed by free ventricular wall rupture, which is usually the most common complication. And then ventricular aneurysms, pericarditis, also known as Dressler syndrome. There may be papillary muscle dysfunction, and finally patient may even go into heart failure. So there will be progressive late heart failure finally.